Hello everybody, Floppy Hat Photos back here again for another episode of my Be Positive van. And what we have here is just a cheap Harbor Freight Chicago Electric brand oscillating tool. And all it does is move back and forth, it doesn't spin around or anything crazy. I turn it on here, you can see I can touch the blade on the side without any fear of really hurting myself. And the purpose of this is going to be to cut through the fiberglass on the roof of this van. As you can see when I push on that wood, it's soft, and what's happened is they removed the roof rack and they did not silicone up the holes where the four bolts came out per side, and it just allowed that wood in there to rot. So, and then as it rotted out, it finally did start leaking out of the fiberglass and then ruined the interior, left some mold in different places and whatnot. And that's why this whole thing is getting removed. Also, it's getting removed so I can insulate the top because I want to get as much of my heat inside this van as I'm going to plan on camping in it quite often. I also showing you there, I tie a knot in all my cords on power tools like this. So as I'm moving around and doing stuff, I am less likely to actually unplug it and then screw up my job. So that's all I have. Basically the little beginner parts, and I'm getting ready to pick a spot to start. I start back here in the back corner, and I realize it's not a very good place to start because I don't know how deep this is going to plunge, how quickly and whatever. So I'm out here in the middle where I've got a lot more safety gap behind me of room just where the particle board should be, although it's all liquid and gross and rotten right now. So as you can see, that tool keeps like plunging through and kind of dropping in quickly. That right there is just user error. I'm not good at it yet. I haven't figured out where I want it to be. Also, you notice a bunch of fiberglass dust floating around the air, and I'm sure there's also mold and grossness in there with that wet, rotten wood. So I am wearing a respirator, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing this voiceover right now and not talking to you live. So definitely, if you're ever going to work around fiberglass, put on your respirator. I'm not a safety guy like telling you what to do, but this was a giant thing that fiberglass residue and dust in your lungs and your eyes can really be a problem. So take safety, and just, I mean, you got to do your own thing, and don't let me tell you what to or not to do, but use common sense here. So I moved back to the front of this chunk of wood, or should I say liquid now, because it is not wood anymore. And I'm just cutting along. See, I'm not cutting the straightest line, which is not a big deal. I'm trying to keep it out of the main rooftop is where I'm mostly after. I can come back in here, grind it, and sand it down smooth at a later time because it's not nearly as important. I will be replacing this with probably 3/4 inch plywood. That's my goal anyway, and then I'll probably put some bolts just actually sticking up through the roof so I can add other supports and other brackets on there at later dates and times. So that's the main thing. You see, I've got the one side loose right now, and I'm going to move around to the other three sides and try and cut them out as I go. This right here is also extra nerve-wracking time. You see I barely have the tip fit in there and then it flies out on me right there because I am terrified I'm going to cut up into the roof of this van and cut a giant hole in the top of my van. And that's going to not be fun to fix, repair, or cheap. And I definitely do not want to have a convertible van either because I get way too much rain and it's way too cold here in Iowa. So anyway, I'm just working my way nice and slow across here and have myself a good time, taking my time and not trying to rush it so I don't cut a hole, like I said, in the top of the van. So I'm getting back here in the corner. You see it gets a little dark, can't really quite see what I'm doing very well, but I'm cutting up in there, trying not to cut out the back of the van either because again, it's another tight spot and an issue. So I can kind of see a little bit what's going on there, and now I'm going to have to change the blade angle so I can get it pointing the way I want it to point. And it's many different angles. I'm not sure how many choices there are in there of how many options it can go. But I move this one, it's almost straight up and down, so I can come back in here and just cut at a straight up position. And that's the new goal with this angle. And you can see it's cutting along there just fine, not a problem at all. As you saw there, I cut the final chunk, laid the tool down, and now I'm just coming back up in here to take the final piece off. And it was a little tiny corner which I broke off, and that is the gross, disgusting liquid form of what at one time was OSB, oriented strand board, large chip particle board, all different kinds of names. You can see I can push on it. It's so gross. I started to move it around, and the smell is so horrendous. I just said to hell with it and backed away from it, let it sit there. So went ahead. I'm trying to see on my phone there because I've got my GoPro on top of my head, make sure I'm still recording, make sure you can still see what's going on. I was gonna stop it there, and I thought, heck, why not just go ahead and keep recording and let you see me cut out the other side, which should go hopefully a little bit quicker since I've already done one. I know what I'm doing. I'm starting at the very back, just plunging straight up in, being super careful not to plunge up in through the top of the van and rip a hole through here, which would definitely, again, not be fun. Coming here to the other side, I'm trying to figure out where I want to go next. Decide, nope, I'm going to have to move the blade again so I can actually cut at a different angle. And this time I'm going to have it pointing to the left because that's the angle I'm going to be moving from right to left or front to back again while cutting this top off. And it's just turn the blade around 180 degrees. This time it'll go. Here's another perfect example you can see of how good that wood looks to the right, top right corner of your screen compared to what it looks like here. And all that little whitish kind of tan looking stuff hanging down there from that piece is, you can see right there in the middle of the screen, is mold also coming out of this fiberglass, and it's so gross. So that right there is the fun part. You see here I get cut a little too high up into the roof line. I gotta kind of back down and kind of aim what I'm doing, and I'm chasing the outside edge. Have not hooked my groove yet and got it figured out with my other hand. So and as you can clearly see here again, how simple it is to change the angle of that blade. I almost dropped my saw there. Luckily caught it by the cord. So simple to change that blade. There's no reason to be at an awkward angle and fighting that. Decided to hell with it. Go back in and change the blade, and now start back at the front and work my way to the back. For some reason, this seems like a much more convenient way that my body wants to move from that angle towards the back. I'm not really sure why that is. It just seems to work well for me that way. And as you can see right here, clearly what I'm doing with my left hand is holding that up, so when I cut this last little bit, or what I think will be the last little bit, it won't fall down and splash on me and just be disgusting. So I lay down the tool, start peeling it out, and as you can see, this one is not as rotten as the other one. There's actually more larger chunks of wood left, and I think what might be the reason there is the mounting holes for this one had been drilled in a little farther, and actually it broke through the fiberglass. So a lot of the water actually ran through, got in the wood, and then dripped on into the interior, which caused more mold on that side of the roof liner, which is how I found out there was a leak up in there to begin with. Thank goodness I found that. So I went ahead right here. I took the GoPro off the top of my head. I'm kind of holding it up so you can see really close. There's some of that wood that's actually still dry, even though it's rotten. There's no strength. There's nothing left of good in there. So anyway, this was just a real quick little, I shouldn't say quick, 10-minute plus video of how I cut the wood out and how gross and disgusting that really is. I will make more video, I hope, of this once I get around to replacing it with some plywood, 1/2 inch, 3/4. Haven't made my mind up quite yet. And there's the picture of them. I'm saving those to use as measurements for templates to make the next version. So anyway, thank you guys for watching, Get out there, have yourself an adventure, but no matter what, make sure you be positive.